Hi everyone, so today's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to do another set of book recommendations, but normally I only do fantasy. And today I'm going to do maybe just some non-fantasy, different categories types of book recommendations. You'll probably get a little bit of to see my reading range of things that I like to read. A lot of history books because I was a history major in college, so I read a lot of history books and I enjoyed them all. But where I had been in school so much, I kind of haven't been reading a lot of them recently, but that doesn't mean I won't get back to them. So starting off with book number 1, I'm going to go Gentleman in Moscow. I loved this book. This book was like a savory treat. I don't know how else to describe it, but just like, you literally just savor it. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. It follows this man who, he's in Russia, and it's during the Bolshevik Revolution, and he is an aristocrat, so obviously he's kind of on the wrong side. So they put him under house arrest in this motel, and he kind of just keeps that more aristocrat style about him. He has the same, he tries to keep everything the same to how he was before, and tries to keep that same outlook, even though he's stuck in just this one building. And so it's really cool to get that mix and that dichotomy between the two changes going on. I mean, it's so drastic between the Bolshevik and then you had the monarchy style. So it's a really interesting change, and this captures it so well. But the way the descriptive words are in this book, it's like I said, it's like you're savoring it. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Some people might find it tedious and kind of boring because there's not a lot happening. He's stuck in house arrest in a motel, so there's not a lot going on. You read it just for more of this atmospheric feel to it. But I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I need to reread it. I had so much fun. It's just something you just slowly devour, and I loved this one so much. So that's book number 1 of my recommendations. So let's go. I talk about this one a lot. And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I put this one on there because it's a non-fantasy recommendation. It's more of, the murder mystery. This is probably my favorite one that I've read of Agatha Christie so far. I haven't read a lot of her books because she's written a lot, but I enjoyed this one so much. I wish I could reread it again for the first time. As following the title, And Then There Were None, and you wonder, how could there be none? So, but there is, and it's amazing to try to get to that, to watch that happen. And you're constantly trying to guess what's going on, what the final result of everything's going to be. These groups of people are just stuck on this island, and there's a lot of murder happening. So there's a lot of action in this one. Whereas a lot of the Agatha Christie books, a lot of the other ones, maybe there's like 1 or 2 murder mysteries to solve. This one, there's like 13. 10 strangers. Sorry, there's 10. I don't know why it's not 13. That's a lot. But there's 10 strangers, and so you got quite a few deaths going on. Makes it exciting. But yeah, so this is a great one. If you haven't started Agatha Christie, or if you haven't even read this one yet, highly recommend. It's a great introduction into her writing. I loved it. Another book really showing my range of reading. I was an English minor, so this will help explain that. We're going to go with Shakespeare. Okay, I know a lot of people probably aren't going to pick up this recommendation because Shakespeare isn't exactly something that you're just like, oh, I'm going to pick that one up for fun. I love Macbeth, though. Macbeth is so much fun. It's going off with a murder mystery. You get kind of another murder story going on. Shakespeare isn't exactly known for his lightheartedness, but, some of them are. But I like Hamlet and Macbeth, so I guess I like more of the darker ones. But this one was fun. I liked Lady Macbeth in this one. She's got a lot of good lines. I even had to memorize one of the parts, and that was fun. I don't remember it now, but it was fun when I had to do it. So I enjoyed this one. This was probably the most fun, though, to read with a group, as I read it during class, just because, the writing can be a little... It's not exactly fun to just read because you're constantly stopping to try to get maybe what that word actually means. Even though it is English, it's kind of a different style of English. But it was really fun to read during class. And this is a great edition, too, that I have because it's just the tiny little pocket edition. But on the other side, it does give just a little bit of what that word would mean today's language. So it is helpful. I did like this one, but there's not really like, I think at the beginning of each, like act, I think there's a little bit of a synopsis, so you can kind of get the overall feel of what to expect when you're reading it. So I really like these editions. I have quite a few of them back there. It's all like the rainbow colored ones, but I like Macbeth probably the best out of the Shakespeare ones that I've read. It's fun. So if you're looking to pick up a Shakespeare for some reason, pick up Macbeth. There we go. I'll say it. Okay, so now going into some actual history books that I do want to recommend. And I'm not one that likes to just read textbook kind of history books. I like ones that are more story oriented, written more like a novel. So the books I'm recommending, they're ones I really did enjoy, and I didn't really feel like I was reading a textbook. They felt more emotional. They weren't just, a bunch of footnotes everywhere. So I do really like these recommendations that I have. So if you're looking for history books, I do recommend these. So the first one is going to be The Last of the Doughboys. This was fun. I was actually, this was required reading for me in college. I enjoyed it. I had so much fun. This one is covering, it's a group of interviews that someone did from people that were in World War I. And there's not really a whole lot of books with World War I. Usually people just want to cover World War II. But World War I was pretty awful. So, and this person interviews a bunch of people. And so you're literally just reading about the interviews of people. And I really liked it. I liked the way it was written. There is some informational bits in there too that the author puts in just to kind of help, fill it in. So it's not just a straight interview, but you are getting these people's stories in there. So I liked the more personal aspect to that. And I wish there was more books like this, but this one I think captured that really well. Because you don't want just a straight interview. You also want that history mixed in, and I think this author does that really well. So, it fills in all the gaps, which is good. But it was very interesting. I really liked it. It's probably the main World War I book that I would recommend. So that one was good. Okay. Okay, so this one, we're going to go back in time a little bit more. But this is Team of Rivals. This is a pretty hefty book. I wouldn't recommend just starting off with this one. It's pretty dense, so it's got some weight to it, but I liked this one. This one it's following the election of Lincoln, and it's going into the Civil War and everything. But you never get Lincoln's point of view or anything. You're getting the other like cabinet members and the other people that were political rivals against him. So you're starting off with learning about the other political parties and their position, what they're doing to campaign, and all they see right now is Lincoln as a rival. And that's why it's called Team of Rivals. But Lincoln then realizes, hey, these are some intelligent people. These are useful people. I want them around me. And so he utilizes them, and they become a part of his team. And it's great to watch that dynamic and how they all just kind of, support each other throughout the war and everything. And they grow really close to Lincoln, and they really grow to respect him. They may not always agree with him, but they're there to kind of push each other, and they're a team of rivals. The title's perfect, but I loved this perspective of Lincoln. I just thought it was a really interesting perspective, and I really enjoyed it. And the end, it ends obviously with Lincoln's assassination. There's no spoiler alert, but it was. Obviously we all know about that, but the way the book wrote it made it emotional, and it was like, I don't cry when I'm reading, but if I did, I probably would have, because it was showing all these other people who were, so affected by it. They lost their brother, essentially. That's how they felt. They felt so close to him, and then they felt this utter loss. And the book captures that really well by just showing the effect that he had and how he built up this friendship with all of them, even though they all started off as rivals. So this one has a lot of historical information. So, I mean, there's not like a ton of footnotes or anything, but it's not like it's filled with dialogue or anything. So, I mean, if you are going to read this, usually what I do with like history books is I read something else along with it, and I'm like, okay, just 20 pages of this a day, and I'll get it done. That's probably what I recommend almost with this book, or just a chapter a day, because it can just be overwhelming to just read all at once. This one does have a lot of information, but I really did enjoy this book. There are some pictures in there. Maybe that'll help motivate you too. I don't know. I always like when there's pictures. But I enjoyed this one so much. I would reread this one again just because there was so much in there. There was, great information about just leadership, working, with others, how to utilize those that, you may not have the same opinions with. And I really enjoyed this. It was great. So if you're going to read a Lincoln book, read this one. Okay, so now going into my next one. Let's see. I'll stick on the history line, maybe. I don't know. Okay. Indianapolis. This one was a fun one. I don't know why, but I seem to like learning about ships sinking. Don't know why. But this is Indianapolis. This was World War II on the Pacific side. And this was a ship that from the American side that sunk. And it was quite horrific. There's a lot of pretty dark scenes in there, especially with shark attacks, hallucinations, being dehydrated and everything. It's pretty dark. I mean, this was not a good scenario. There were those that survived, because the back of the book says nearly 900 made it into the water alive, but they're there for the next 5 days and 4 nights, and only 316 survive. So you get their time during those days and how they survived, how they didn't survive. There's a lot of dark scenes in this, but it's definitely, gives you a learning lesson on what happened with this. I just enjoyed learning about this because I think it's important that, there's not a lot of good situations that happen. So, I think it's important to learn about it so you can, remember and honor those losses that happened. But yeah, that would have been a terrible way to go. Absolutely terrible. But I recommend this if you don't want to be depressed, but if you like to learn, you can read it. So, I feel bad being excited about a book that's so depressing, but I liked it. It was written so well. This one's written more story oriented. Not a lot of footnotes or anything. You get quotes in there, so you have dialogue. It's interesting. I really enjoyed this. I would read it again. I liked it. So don't be too dark. Okay, so I'll do kind of 2 books at once because I love this history author, Erik Larson. He's probably my favorite history author ever. I'll read whatever book he puts out. But I'm just going to do two of his. I've read 2 other of his, but so I've read 4, I guess, of his books. There's a couple others I need to read. But these 2, I love these 2. Devil in the White City and Dead Wake. These are both great books. But Erik Larson, he's one that writes more like a history novelist. Great job. But so Devil in the White City, this is covering what's it called? The World's Fair in 1893 in Chicago. So it's covering that, but on the side, it's also covering a serial killer. So you're getting kind of these 2 things, but those are going on at the same time. And it's just an interesting mix, but it's really good. I've gotten this book for gifts for people because it's really good. You'll learn a lot about that time, and you learn about the World Fair, and you learn a lot about the serial killer, and them trying to solve that mystery. So there's a lot of exciting things going on. It's written more like a novel. I really enjoyed it. I think he covered it really well and in depth, and I think where it's more of like a novel, but it is history. I think that I like that. Other probably historians probably don't like it. I think a lot of historians might have problems with Erik Larson writing more like a novel, but this is how you remember history, is through the stories. And I love that he writes it more like a story, because that's what I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember it that way. I'm not going to remember all these footnotes and random facts. I'm going to remember the story of the serial killer. I mean, that's what I'm going to remember. And Erik Larson really captures that. And so I enjoyed this, and I recommend just checking out Erik Larson's books. If you don't like the synopsis of this one, which, I mean, serial killer and World Fair, how could you not? But if you don't like this one, going off of kind of Indianapolis with a ship sinking, Dead Wake, this is another sinking. Sorry, I can't talk. But this one, I think it's the Lusitania, is it? It should be. Yeah, this one is the Lusitania. So this is kind of right before, I thought it was, 1915. So, and this was a kind of a tipping point for America entering the war in World War I. Because I think we entered in 1916, I think. I don't know. Don't ask me to remember exact facts. But between that and then the Zimmerman note, and there was something else too. But this was one of the tipping points for America entering the war, because there was Americans on the Lusitania. It was supposed to be just a passenger ship. I think there was other cargo on there too. But it was sunk by a German U-boat. So, I mean, there's a lot of, dark scenes in this one too. But I thought it was written really well. It was really interesting. It gives like a play-by-play of what happened during each, minute ticking with the sinking. It follows, you get the point of views of a lot of people that, survived it, or what they were thinking or doing or what was happening. I mean, this is a great recollection of the Lusitania. So I enjoyed this one a lot. It's been a while since I read it, so I'm not quite like, this is exactly what happened. But I know I enjoyed this one. This one was really good. But all of Erik Larson's books are good. So, I mean, there's a couple other ones. The other two that he had are World War II ones. So you have, I think it was like the Splendid and the, I'm not going to remember. That was like the Splendid and the Vile, and then there was another one. In the Garden of the Beast. Those are also Erik Larson ones, and those are World War II. So if you want to check those out, you can. The Splendid and the Vile was really good, because that's covering more of Britain with a lot of the bombing going on. So that one's a good one too. Okay, so with a couple more books here before I get off on too many tangents. This is historical fiction, but I love Ruta Sepsi's. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not going to say that right. But Salt of the Sea. This one's a good book. And then she also, she's written a couple other ones. But the other one I read was Between Shades of Grey. Both of them are great. This one was my first one of reading of hers, and I enjoyed this one so much. They're not exactly happy books, but I liked them. This one is another ship sinking. I'm sorry. I apparently have a theme. Okay, so this one's World War II, and it's a ship sinking that was apparently 6 times deadlier than the Titanic. And it's one that's forgotten, that no one really talks about. But it was the Wilhelm Gustloff ship. So, I mean, this one, there's a lot of bad going on. But I like the way she writes. So, like, the font's, like, pretty big. And so this is really quick to read. And each chapter is pretty much just, like, a page long. And it's different points of views of the characters in the book. There might be, like, 3 or 4 characters that it follows. But you can just fly through this book. So, I mean, I definitely recommend if you have a historical fiction book that you want to try out. And she doesn't, like, focus on, like a lot of historical fiction is just really romance heavy. That's not I mean, I think she has a little bit of a storyline there, but that's not all the focus. She's there to cover what happens. And it's really interesting to read, like, when she kind of gives a little bit of an author's note, how she'll, like, even go to those places and interview people. So you can really tell that she's done her research. So yeah, I really enjoy her books. I think they're great. So if you're going to check out a historical fiction book and you don't really want a lot of romance, that it's like, oh, I fell in love with, like, as World War II and they're in, France occupied. I fell in love with a German person, but my husband's still fighting the war. I don't know. That's what those all are. And it's like, I don't want to read about that. I don't care. That's called cheating. Like, no. And who wants to be with their captor? I don't get it. Whatever, if people like that stuff, but not me. Okay, so different tangent. Okay, so my last book here, I'm going to go with a C.S. Lewis. So I don't have the book individual, but I have it in a collection, which honestly I'd recommend the whole collection. But I was just going to go with just Mere Christianity. I love that book. I could reread that book all the time. It's a great, he gives a lot of the logical reasons with Christianity, and he's not covering any type of specific denomination or anything, but he's explaining how, I don't know how to put it into words. This is terrible, but he just really gives the logic behind the beliefs, and it just gives you more of just this logical rationale, and I love it. I love that take. It strengthens my own faith. I enjoy it, and I get something out of it each time I read it. Some of it could be a little dated because this was written a while ago, so you probably get some more language in there that you wouldn't necessarily see for like a book now, especially between with women, being written. But it's just still, I still think this applies today. A lot of Lewis's writings do. But going off with this, I also would recommend Screwtape Letters, The Great Divorce, all great books. I know he's known for his Narnia series, but he's also written these wonderful faith-based books that can just really help strengthen your faith, and I love it. I'm not one that really wants to read a lot of faith-based novellas, just because usually something's in there that's I don't necessarily agree with, but I will read Lewis any day. I think he does great. Normally I like to just stick with the Bible itself and commentaries, but I always get something out of Lewis's writings. I think he does a great job. So yeah, I hope I gave you some good books to check out. Obviously, if you like to read about ships sinking, I apparently had a lot of recommendations for that. I didn't realize that when I picked that out. But yeah, hopefully I gave you some good recommendations, a little bit of a variety of what I read. So if you have other recommendations yourself, I would be happy to hear them, especially if they're history related. It's hard to find good history books that aren't just textbook. So yeah, any type of recommendations, I'd love it. But other than that, thank you for watching.